All right. Well, officially welcome to our webinar. And this webinar, we're going to be exploring how unhealed grief takes up, I guess you could say, residence in our body and try to really uncover a new path to wholeness there. And so we're going to be highlighting the subtle ways that emotional pain shows up, um, physical symptoms, and also reveal the truth about why our bodies carry what our heart cannot speak. So we're going to take a closer look at some of the hidden wounds that are imprinted into our physical bodies and how unprocessed sorrow can actually fuel chronic tension, inflammation, and illness. So our hope for tonight is that you'll come away with a better understanding of the link between grief and physical health, and also be able to recognize some of the signals that your own body has been sending, maybe even for a long time. Because by healing from the inside out, we're reclaiming our stories, we're reclaiming our bodies, and we're opening ourselves to the possibilities that are waiting on the other side of grief. But before we dive in, a couple of things we just want to kind of go over to help you get the most out of our time together. The webinar is going to last about 90 minutes. The last 30 minutes are set aside for questions, and we love questions. We really do. And so we would also love to see you and connect. So if it is at all possible, please have your camera on. I believe everybody does, which is always awesome. It's great to see your faces. And lastly, feel free to interact in the chat. And like I said, if you do have any questions, put those in the chat as well, and we will definitely address them in our Q&A at the end. Sometimes it's helpful to jot those in so that you don't forget. But in any case, we will answer those questions for you.
Yeah, so traumatized people chronically feel unsafe inside their bodies. The past is alive in the form of gnawing interior discomfort. This is a quote from Bessel van der Kolk. And if you've ever heard of him, he has an amazing book called The Body Keeps the Score that really goes deep into these things that we're going to be talking about. And we really wanted to include this quote because we wanted to start by acknowledging something that you probably already deep down know, that your body remembers. It literally holds on to the words that your heart can't speak, and it stores this unexpressed grief in different areas of your body. And we're going to go deeper into why this happens and how to begin this journey of coming home to yourself. And I really love this quote because it reminds us that trauma isn't just a story that lives in our minds. It's literally etched into our bodies. And like Dan said, it can create things like tension, chronic tension, discomfort, and pain. So true healing starts when we learn to reconnect with these bodily sensations and to listen without judgment and translate their messages into awareness. So when we lean into the wisdom of our own physical experiences to honor what's been hidden, we are taking the first steps toward a greater wholeness. So we're going to look at physical symptoms versus emotional manifesting as physical symptoms. Okay. So physical symptoms are your body's direct signals of injury, illness, or some kind of an imbalance. Think of like a sprained ankle that swells after a fall, or a fever that rises in response to an infection, right? They are pointing to a clear and measurable cause in the body itself. So, grief manifesting as physical symptoms is when unprocessed emotional pain translates into bodily distress, where you might feel tightness in your chest, where your heart feels heavy, or headaches, or chronic digestive upsets, right? When you're struggling about something or you have deep sorrow. There's the root cause isn't a virus or a strain, but it's an emotional weight on your nervous system. So, in essence, it's your body's way of speaking the language of your heart's unspoken pain. Hang on, there's a new person coming in. Okay.
Awesome.
Yes. And we really want to be clear about this. We are not here to offer false hope or magic cures or suggest that emotional healing replaces medical care. But what we have seen and what science is beginning to name is this, that when the heart holds pain that doesn't have a place to go, the body will hold it. There's almost always an emotional thread running through both physical and emotional suffering. And when that grief remains unspoken, unprocessed, or buried, it can keep the body in a chronic state of stress. It's like dysregulation or being in survival mode all the time. So that's not your fault. It's really how the body protects what the heart can't hold. And we believe that if you're doing the brave work of healing, you deserve to explore every part of that healing, especially the parts that we were never taught how to face.
Okay. So have you ever asked, you know, why does my body ache this way? Or why can't I shake this constant fatigue? Or could the things I've been through be affecting my body? Or some question along these lines. And if so, you're not alone in that. Our bodies, as we've been kind of pointing out, are actually repositories for the burdens that our hearts haven't released. And many of us carry far more than we realize. And so we're going to pause a moment to sort of name the weight that we bear and then take that first step towards healing. So this conversation is for you if you find yourself struggling with chronic pain or fatigue or illness that no one can really fully explain. Or if you've felt emotionally overwhelmed but learned how to push it down. Or you've been told, well, it's just stress, but you sense it's really something deeper. Or lastly, you just want a path to healing that honors your heart and not just your symptoms. Gabor Mate reminds us that trauma is not what happens to you, but what happens inside you. This isn't a flaw. It's actually a survival strategy that disconnects us from our emotions, our bodies, even our own voice, all for our protection. But it's that very disconnection that can also echo in chronic illnesses and relentless pain. And so healing starts when we name the wound and find a safe place to reconnect to our heart, our story, and basically our wholeness. Monte teaches that true recovery is calling for more than just a relief of symptoms. It actually demands a holistic journey that bridges mind and body. It reunites us with our authentic self. And it actually invites healing to flow through every part of our lives.
And that is exactly why we are here. Because when you experience healing like this, you can't help but want it for other people. And both Dan and I have had incredible life-changing experiences going through grief recovery, using these tools. And I would even go as far to say that it completely transformed our marriage. But I would say my journey did not begin in a place of strength. It really came from desperation. And I definitely have a story that includes my emotional, what I was going through affecting me physically. And I came into grief recovery in 2003, and my parents were getting divorced. And I was a big girl. I was an adult. I was married. I didn't live at home, but we were a very tight-knit family. And I had kind of taken on the role as the oldest daughter of holding it all together. At least I thought I had. That was my thought. And when things started to kind of come apart, I developed adult onset asthma. And I had never had asthma before. I'd never had allergies or any kind of issues with my breathing. And it hit me hard. And for whatever reason, I was going to many doctors and they could not diagnose me for over a year. So I had this chronic cough and I got really, really sick to the point where I ended up in the emergency room and finally got diagnosed with asthma. And it's amazing. I even had a holistic doctor tell me that the lungs represent grief in Chinese medicine. And even in that moment, I thought, oh, that's weird. Like, whoosh, right over my head. I'm like, that's weird. Grief, huh? And then I got introduced to grief recovery, which I immediately said, oh, I don't need that. I don't need that. I just need to figure out how to fix this so I can keep going. And but it was a big time for me to stop and to kind of it stopped me in my tracks literally for a while. And that is really what brought me to my knees. I think literally all I could do was breathe, focus on breathing. Hold on, I will make sure. Okay. Was just focus on breathing. So it's amazing how the body will literally override our emotions and it will manifest physically. Um, I'm trying to get mute there so that we can, but I can't find him. Okay. So, anyways, that is my story, and there's so much more, but that's enough, all we have time for right now. And just to encourage you guys that Dan and I have been doing grief recovery. I've been doing grief recovery since 2003, and together we have a combined 26 years of experience, and we've guided probably thousands at this point of people through grief recovery, through life's toughest changes, and to find true healing. And we've witnessed an incredible truth. And that is that when people get free from the unresolved grief in their lives, they become free to be fully present as they navigate life. And through it all, we discovered this profound connection between our unhealed grief and our physical well being. No question about it.
Yeah.
So there is a heart and body connection. And when the heart weeps, the body listens. And this is because our bodies are more than just flesh and bone. They are kind of like a library of our deepest experiences. Every heartbreak, every loss, every disappointment leaves an imprint. And when we have all of this unspoken, unresolved grief, it does not evaporate. That would be nice. It literally takes up residence. And you can feel this in your shoulders, in your chest, in your gut. Modern science and ancient wisdom agree on this point. Whatever we don't express emotionally, we will carry physically. And by tuning in to the subtle messages of our body, like tightness and fatigue, we begin to decode literally the language of our soul. And healing really begins not by ignoring the ache, but by honoring it. And we say this that's like listening to our heart in this way is really this first act of love, of really truly loving ourselves,
Yeah.
which brings incredible healing.
Yeah. And so based on we've kind of highlighted Bessel van der Kolk and Gabor Mate, and it's based on their work that there are three primary ways that unprocessed loss or trauma will affect our bodies. And so the first is that trauma is, they call somatically encoded. It becomes body language. Another way of thinking of it is that unprocessed grief is literally rewriting our somatic memory, turning those emotional wounds into physical ailments. So if you imagine your body as a living ledger, every transaction is recorded in muscle, organ, even cellular. And if we take this analogy even further, imagine seeing that same ledger and now in Technicolor, where your lungs are carrying the weight of grief, like Vicky was talking about. Anger maybe residing in your liver. And so when we're allowing ourselves to remain in a state of overwhelm, we're not just we're not just feeling feelings, we're actually accumulating them. And so over
Mm,
time, that stagnation manifests as maybe joint pain or stomach discomfort or any number of other ailments. And each of these symptoms are serving as reminders that whatever we don't process emotionally now is going to be converted into something to be physically unpacked later. And
wow.
after all, the point here is that trauma is not going to just politely file itself away in our minds. It is actually a volume of information on permanent loan to your body and written into muscle tension, autonomic spikes, and sudden health events. This is why a familiar trigger can replay the recording, so to speak, so vividly that you actually forget it's from the past because it feels like it's that much in the present. And so instead, your body is remembering the moment that your brain likely tried to ignore. The problem is that when we shut down that memory in the hopes of outrunning the ache, we quickly run into a rather painful paradox. The more we disconnect emotionally, the louder the body protests physically. So, chronic pain, digestive turmoil, autoimmune flare ups, sometimes even cancer, can be translated into the stubborn language of unspoken sorrow. And this unprocessed grief isn't just vanishing, it isn't just going away, it's literally rewriting your body's story.
So, dysregulated stress physiology fuels inflammation and disease. So, the second way that incomplete emotions affect our physical bodies is that dysregulated stress and physiology fuels inflammation and disease, like this says. And another way of saying that is that trauma imprints on our neuroendocrine systems and it accelerates inflammatory processes that drive chronic illness. So incredible. Our stress responses are designed to be a short sprint, not a marathon. It's like that fight, flight, or freeze is not, you're not meant to live there forever. Unfortunately, unprocessed trauma will flip that switch to on and leaves it there. Research has shown that chronic overdrive obstructs the rest mode of our parasympathetic system, which then that's what ensures the basic function of our body are working properly. So consequently, cortisol continues to flood our system as though you're under constant threat. And that makes so much sense, doesn't it? It's kind of like keeping the engine revving while you're in park. Imagine if you were doing that to your car. That's just stressful to be in a car that's revving like that in park. So when the adrenaline and cortisol levels go unchecked, inflammation runs amok. Dr. Gabor Mate was the first to document that these symptoms are connected to the very conditions that dominate our clinics today. There's so much heart disease, diabetes, arthritis, depression, and inflammation is not a separate problem. It's really the footprint of trauma, and it's stamped, literally stamped into our immune systems. And if you've ever heard of Dr. Henry Cloud, amazing, amazing. And if it's not enough, like what we're talking about physically, he suggests that unresolved grief also erodes our boundaries and our ability to rest. So we become too busy caring for everyone else to notice our own fraying edges. So because we're unable to switch off, our body never really has a chance to repair itself. And this is why trauma doesn't just hijack our feelings, it accelerates the process that break down our physical health.
Yeah. So finally, the third way that incomplete emotions affect our physical bodies is essentially how our fragmented parts undermine self-care and inner harmony. So, in other words, a fractured internal system is not only keeping the trauma alive, but it's also eroding our ability to care for the body that carries that trauma. So let me just sort of take a second to briefly introduce you to the cast of characters that are living inside us. There's the exile who carries your old wounds. There are managers who strive for perfection to keep pain out of sight. And then there are the firefighters who, extinguish discomfort with addictive distractions. But each one of these fractured characters are there to ensure that your true needs remain off stage. And so when we're in a space where we're just numbly reaching out for food or screens or substances, it's almost never about the snack, the distraction, or the comfort. And that's because these quick fixes are really just desperate pleas for help, just desperate pleas for relief of any kind from the parts of us that feel unheard or unseen. And so the cost of ignoring these pleas are things like poor sleep, nutritional imbalance, weakened immunity, just to name a couple. And ironically, the very things we do to soothe ourselves end up sabotaging our wellness. When our inner boundaries become blurred, we just continue giving until there's nothing left. And then, this is the worst part of all, we end up neglecting the one person we can never, ever escape, ourselves. And so burnout, exhaustion, and even illness is often the final act in this tragedy, right? And then as our internal ecosystem is further splintered by trauma, self-care becomes pretty elusive. Um, and all we really want is this peace. We just desperately desire this peace that always seems to be beyond our grasp. But in each case, these injuries they're not just psychological, there's also a physical component to them. And so healing is beginning when you learn to translate the language of your body into windows that show where to look for these answers.
Yes. And the truth is, we can't experience strong, healthy relationships while carrying the weight of unresolved grief. And that's a big statement. That's a really big statement when you think about it. And this is why everything begins by finding freedom from pain, grief, trauma, and loss in order to have the freedom to experience your life and relationships to the full. So we've seen that transformation happens in two phases. So first, there's the getting free from the things keeping you stuck, which include grief, loss, trauma, and self-sabotage. And then you become free to live the life you are meant for. And that includes peace, purpose, connection, and joy. So, unfortunately, most recovery programs out there encourage you to step into freedom without first releasing the weight of your past. And that's why it's so easy to remain stuck. But we are excited to share with you something so that you don't have to be one of those people that stay stuck in that. And the whole point of healing is not so that we can tolerate pain better. We have already learned how to survive and how to survive sorrow. We've been accustomed to anxiety. We've become used to it. We've become well acquainted with disappointment. And healing allows us to escape from the bondage of self-limiting patterns and um, those things that keep us stuck where we feel like we're going one step forward and one step back, all those things. And it really empowers us to step into freedom. And for that, we need hearts that can handle joy. And I think you know what I mean when we say that. We want nervous systems that can feel safe and peaceful, and souls that are no longer resistant to hope. Have you ever wrestled with having hope that things are going to change, that things are going to heal, that things can be different? And I believe this is true deliverance. This is deliverance not just from bondage, but from the belief that you were just made to endure.
Mm.
And this is freedom not from just what hurt you, but for what heals you. So interestingly, losses often shake our identity. And after death or a breakup or trauma, it's common and natural to ask, who am I now? It changes, right? Everything changes. And sometimes we can feel like we've lost more than the person or our role. Sometimes as a partner or a caregiver or a parent or a child, we could lose our dreams. We could lose our sense of safety in the world. There's a lot going on right now that feels a little unsafe.
Yeah.
So, if our identity becomes too entwined with external relationships or roles, then it really comes as no surprise that grief can leave us feeling loss. But building emotional resilience involves reclaiming a deeper sense of who you are and one that can withstand loss without losing yourself. So, these three steps to healing that we're going to talk about. This is healing from the inside out. And so first we're going to talk about naming what the body carries, then healing the hidden grief, and then how to rewire with compassion. So the physical manifestations are real, but they are simply pointing toward the deeper story that has been written in our bodies. Healing is not about becoming someone new. It's kind of more about returning to who you truly are. These three steps are not a quick fix, but they're a journey. It's like a pilgrimage back to your heart. And together we're going to explore each of these. And the good news is that you don't need to become someone new, like we said. You just need to remember who you really are. beneath the things that you've experienced, beneath the pain.
Yeah. So, step one, name what the body carries. Our symptoms, like we've been kind of alluding to, are stories, stories that our bodies are absolutely begging us to listen to. Chronic tension, persistent anxiety, draining fatigue, these aren't random things. They're the echoes, if you will, of unresolved emotional pain that is locked in our muscles and nerves and cells, even. And so when our minds are unable to recall the original wound, our bodies are able to remember every single unspoken sorrow. And that's why what we've been talking about is that awareness is the first act of compassion, because before anything can truly be healed, it has to be seen. And so what you've carried in silence needs a voice. And then by listening, I mean really listening, you start to translate the pain into words. And that's when you open the door to genuine restoration. Step two is to heal the hidden grief. It's because our bodies cannot release what our hearts never got to feel. So when we bury our sorrow, it doesn't vanish, like we've been talking about. It settles into our tissues. It fuels inflammation, illness, and an all too familiar sense of just shutting down. So healing happens when we give grief its rightful space to breathe by fully feeling what was lost rather than glossing over it or rushing past the ache. We start to really unlock the ability, the body's ability, that is, to let go. And so this is kind of an essential step that's often overlooked by conventional programs because it transforms suppressed pain into a compassionate release. And then once the heart is free to speak, the body no longer needs to carry that weight. So step number three is to rewire with compassion. You know, our nervous system was never designed to function in a constant state of alarm. The problem is, day after day, it remains locked in survival mode. It's just churning through fight or flight or freeze. But we don't really experience healing by pushing harder or by silencing the noise. And that's because it can only happen when the body is given the safety it craves. So when we invite a gentle presence, slow breaths, grounding sensations, compassionate attention, we start to reclaim the lost terrain within ourselves. And it's in that space of calm curiosity that our old trauma responses can start to be repatterned with truth to kind of replace that hypervigilance that we're operating under with actual inner peace. And so this is why restoring safety in our bodies, it's not about willpower. It's really about cultivating a simple but radical practice of fully being here now. In other words, presence. So we want to just point out that you are not broken. This is natural. You are experiencing a natural response to grief. Your body was simply doing its best to protect you. So when grief goes unprocessed, it starts to speak. And the words it uses are aches, fatigue, tension, and other symptoms, all in an effort to guide you toward the work that your heart and body are desperately longing for. So when you understand why these signals arise and you see a path towards emotional and physical integration, you know that really healing yourself isn't a matter of, quote, fixing individual symptoms. It's really more about reclaiming your wholeness, gently gathering each of these fragmented parts and then welcoming every ache, every story, and honoring the integrity of your body. So when you embrace this journey, you're really stepping fully into the possibility of vibrant health, resilience, and a life lived authentically, where you're walking into a situation where you're united in mind, body, and spirit.
Yes. And we really believe that healing is a journey, not a destination. And ours doesn't end here. We wanted to introduce you to the grief recovery method. And some of you know the grief recovery method really well. And you know that it offers structured, compassionate roadmap to help you process buried sorrow and reclaim your full self. We do this through guided steps, caring support, and very curated resources. You learn to honor each loss. We do that and speak unspoken grief and experience an emotional renewal. And really, this path is not meant to be walked alone. And we are committed to offering you all of the encouragement and tools you need to move forward with confidence. And if you feel called to continue exploring the grief recovery method, can guide your next steps into resilience and integration. Every step is walked together, and we support this journey all the way through, celebrating every breakthrough as you move toward a life where there really truly is a promise of wholeness, emotional wholeness first, and then physical will follow.
Yeah.
So I love this sign so much. This is the sign you've been looking for. So we will walk you through the grief recovery handbook. We go through the handbook. That's the only thing that we use in this process. We meet for 8 weeks of one-on-one coaching. We meet on Zoom, 90 minutes, your time. And we really walk you through to help heal old wounds, challenge limiting beliefs, and fully embrace your next chapter. We believe very much that the best way to move forward is to get emotionally complete with where you're leaving, what is behind you. There's something about transitions that are so important, and these tools are the best out there to help you process through that. Um, the Grief Recovery Handbook is so powerful. It's been around for 40 plus years, very strong. It is an incredible tool, and we use that as we come alongside you. You're never alone, and we also offer ongoing support in between each session. And if you are an alumni, we love that you are here, and we want to welcome you back. And to always remember that alumni sessions are what keep that momentum going. It's so important. The tools that you learn are something that you take with you and you can use them. I use them all the time. And the first time I did this was in 2003. I use them to this day. I'm actually reading some grief recovery tomorrow for myself. It's amazing, this process, and how amazing these tools are to change everything. So, we wanted to look for a second at the real value of this program because when you consider everything that's at stake, your emotional and physical health, your general happiness, your relationships, you begin to see just how valuable going in and healing these heart wounds, you begin to see how important that really is. And we've personally spent several years and thousands of dollars in therapy, self-help books, what seminars and programs, and I can honestly say that we never experienced the transformation that we had with the grief recovery method. That is why we do it. That is why I was like everything else I put aside and said, this is what I want to do because I could not believe how much changed for me in such a short amount of time. And we know that the real world value of this program is incredible, and we just want you to experience it for yourself.
So just kind of take a minute to think about whatever emotional or physical pain that you're carrying right now. You know, the kind that just sort of lingers there quietly beneath the surface. Think about the losses that you've buried or the grief that you've never fully named, the trauma that your body is still holding on to. Imagine what it would feel like to move through life without that heaviness, to wake up feeling grounded, whole, present in your own body. And I want you to let that sink in for a second because it is absolutely possible. This isn't like some pie in the sky, there is a way that things work. And since we can't undo what happened, we begin by tending to what's happening inside us right now. And that's because emotional healing, it isn't just a mental process, it's also a physical one. When we name and process our pain, we're not just helping ourselves to feel better emotionally, we actually begin to feel safer, calmer, more at home in our own skin. And that's when the transformation really starts to kick in, because it's from that level and place of healing that we unlock an entirely new experience of resilience, one that allows us to feel without being overwhelmed, right? To rest without guilt, and to respond to life's challenges without being emotionally hijacked. It's it's self-awareness, it's freedom, and it literally changes everything.
Yes. So I want to take a minute to break down the total value of what you get from this program. And we always do a 30-minute consultation call, which can go longer sometimes. But that's valued at $100. And 8 weeks of 90-minute one-on-one Zoom coaching calls with ongoing support is valued at $1,200. So that is a value total of $1,300. But we definitely want to give you something special to thank you for being here, for joining us, for being referred by someone and being here on this webinar. So, for anyone that's ready to take the next step, we are offering $100 off the whole program, and it's normally 1,200. And we are also going to do the consultation for free. That is a consultation with either Dan or myself, and that's a total savings of 200, and that brings the total cost to $1,100 for the 8 calls. It's 8 90-minute calls. And what I love is that this program, the grief recovery method, is a tried and true process. But I love the way that it will meet you right where you are, whatever loss you're experiencing, whatever struggles that you're having. And when we get on a call and we can do a consultation call, we'll explore how we can support you and meet you right where you are. And it literally, we can create a personalized roadmap for your healing journey. And same thing, if you are an alumni and you're thinking about some deeper work, if there's more work you want to do, book a consultation call with us. We are happy to do that. We're happy to jump on a call and see how there's even more healing and growth that can happen as a result of doing the work.
Yeah. So, I think it's also important to acknowledge the reality that dealing with painful emotions is scary. I mean, there's just no way to sugarcoat that. But I want you to just walk through a little thought exercise with me. If all this did was help you to heal the unresolved grief that's been holding you back from showing up as the person that you've always wanted to be, wouldn't it be worth it? If all this program did was equip you to with the tools to create a life where you were thriving, where you were growing, where you were living in deeper connection with the people that you love, a life where you felt safe and emotionally grounded, wouldn't it be worth it? Imagine what your life could be like if you experienced this kind of transformation. And the good news is, like I said earlier, this is not something you have to imagine. This is something that grief recovery will do for you and a lot more. In fact, I want to take this even one step further. Take a moment to consider the cost of staying exactly where you are right now. Consider the cost of continuing to struggle with self sabotage, damaged relationships, and unresolved grief. This is an investment that you're making in not only you, but also in your future. And if you don't already believe it, let me just say you are totally worth it.
Yes. And we have heard some questions and concerns that people have shared with us, and you might have some of these same questions or concerns. One is, I'm not sure this will work for me. I definitely wrestled with that because I didn't think I had any grief. I didn't think that that was an issue. And we know that everyone that we've worked with who fully committed and completed the program has experienced incredible transformation. I can literally say that with no hesitation. I remember when I realized what unresolved grief was when I went to an information meeting to learn about it. And it said unresolved grief is conflicting feelings caused by the end of a familiar pattern of behavior. And that opened my mind. It kind of blew my mind to think that grief was something very different than what I thought it was. And I love, Monique, what you shared. You didn't think you needed this program because what you had gone through didn't seem as bad as what others had been through. And it's so easy to minimize what we've been through and to not realize that grief is undelivered communication. It's conflicting feelings. That's what grief is. And so I can tell you that when you commit to it, you will see incredible results. Another question is, I've tried everything. How is this going to be different? And we say this is different. It really and truly is. It goes deeper and it actually rewires your thinking at both an emotional and a neurological level. Definitely, it is. And it goes very well with other things. If you are in therapy or you've been in therapy, this is something that will take that to a whole nother level also. Another thing can be it's too expensive. That's, something to invest in. Absolutely. And like Dan said, to look at what is it costing you to stay where you are if you want to be in a different place in a month, in a year, because everything that we learn costs something. And can you think of anything that's more deserving than an investment in yourself? Because truly, it is an investment in your family, in all your relationships, and in your legacy that you leave. Another question, and this makes so much sense. I'm afraid to deal with my grief. And it is a very scary process, but we are with you every step of the way. And one of the things that I have experienced many times, most times, is after the first or second session, people feel such a sense of relief and hope because they start to understand that there's reasons why they've been feeling these things or hiding these things or afraid to talk about them. So it is a scary process, but I promise you that when you feel like you're moving forward, it will shift everything. And this is a big one. Why bring up the past when I just want to move forward? Why bring this up? And we've heard that even that people that choose to do it, that people will say to them, "Why are you going to bring all that up?" And we hear this because we've truly learned to survive by not feeling. And so what we're asking you to do is put aside your coping mechanisms and put aside those survival mechanisms and feel. And we're going to give you the process, the structured way to do just that. Because we don't move forward until we process our grief, our wounds, our losses, and we will stay right where we are and we will just kind of invent newer ways and our body will just get worse, to be truthful.
Yeah. Yeah. So this program is really, for me, until I came across it, it's unlike anything I've experienced. One of the reasons for that is that it's a step-by-step action program, in which you're fully supported at all times. And one of the ways that we do that is we never ask you to do anything that we don't do first. And you will be amazed at how much transformation happens in just 90 minutes a week for 8 weeks. Every session, each week builds on the next as it uncovers and heals a lot more than you can imagine right now. Our only resource that we use for the program is the Grief Recovery Handbook, which of course is included, and it's backed by more than 40 years of research. In fact, this program is considered the gold standard in recovery from grief and loss.
So we say, take the leap. The time to act is now. Don't wait another day to start your journey to healing and transformation. This is such a powerful opportunity to change your life for the better. And I love there's some alumni here that are sharing that their experiences. And actually, when we break for question and answer, we'd love to hear any of you guys that want to share your story. We'd love to hear. Um, and we know that this is a powerful opportunity to change your life for the better. And starting now is the perfect time to get emotionally complete. We always say it's never too late and it's never too soon. It is just never, ever too late. Absolutely. So we feel like you're going to be amazed at how different your life can be. And this is a new skill set. This isn't therapy. This is really like an education of learning emotional coping skills. It's a skill. And we're here and we know that they will help you thrive in every area of your life. So we encourage you to take that first step, book a call. We are so ready. We love to hear your whole story. We want to hear it all. There's a great quote from a gentleman named James Sherman, and he said, "You can't go back and change the beginning, but you can start where you are and change the ending." And we completely believe in you, and we love doing this work, and we would love to work with you.
Yeah, I just want to throw a quick word in though. Look, I unapologetically believe in the power of grief recovery. I love it. It's changed my life. It's been a huge difference. But I also always want to say this to you. Please do not even consider doing this right now unless you're really ready to do it for you. Like if you're doing this because maybe somebody's talked to you about it and it kind of nagged you, and finally you're just like, okay, I just want you to get off of my back, you know, don't do it. Or if you're kind of being coerced or leveraged in some way, you know, don't do it. This program is awesome. It's amazing. I believe in it. I've done it. Um, it's phenomenal. But it's so important that you're if you do it, that you are really truly doing it for you and for no other reason. That's the power of the program. And if you aren't doing it for you, then I would suggest to you it's probably not your time because it's such an essential ingredient of it. But man, if you are ready, oh, it's amazing. It's amazing.
Yeah. Yeah, get ready to embrace the next season in a completely different mindset. Like, I love here what Jerry said, like a literal weight lifted off, felt physically lighter, and like I could breathe. This is so awesome. So, we want to encourage you to book a call with us. We're so happy to talk to you. And what you're going to find either later tonight, depending on how long this takes to upload, you're going to get an email, and that email is going to have a recording of tonight. You're going to get an ebook that's going to have some of the things that we talked about tonight so that you can always have that on hand, and Calendly links that you can always book a call with us. You can also just reply to the email and we'll get back to you and set up a time to chat. And so we want to say thank you so much for joining us. And we would love to stay on here and answer any questions or hear from you if you want to share your experience. We would love to hear that too. Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you all.
Oh, I'm getting a funny note from the. So if you want to share, let us
Can
know.
you hear
There's a
me?
who's that?
Hi, it's Monique. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you,
Monique.
Monique.
Okay, sorry. My computer's a bit nutso right now, so I might actually need to shut off the video just to spare the bandwidth on the internet and you can hear me better. Honestly, I've had a number of people tell me about Vicky over the years, and I'm like, yeah, I don't need that. Yeah, I don't need that. It's not that bad. I really don't need that. I'm not grieving, okay? Um, but when I actually had the consultation with Vicky, and she actually shared with me more about what it was. I was like, oh, actually, I do need that. And she was so patient with me, really helped me to patient with me as far as taking my time through it because it wasn't easy to go through, of course. There were some tears, for sure, but I felt safe and I felt heard and I felt like I could trust Vicky to, guide me through this process. And I've done alumni work with her after the time, and I literally have told her, even though the last 2 years plus have been absolutely insane, I have like this weird sense of peace that I don't even know how to explain it. I'm like, this is weird. Am I supposed to feel peaceful right now? Everything is crazy. But literally, I think it's just because I've been practicing with these tools, like Vicky had mentioned, for so long that it gets easier and easier, and I feel like more steady and stable, and I don't have as much of the ups and downs, even when things are insane. So I just wanted to say, if you are thinking about doing this, I would definitely encourage you not to wait. Book the free consultation. You never know like what it can do for you.
Thank you, Monique. That's so awesome. Thank you. From Canada. We have Canada. We have people everywhere on the call. It's so awesome. Thank you. Thank you. Does anybody have any questions or one about the process or about what we shared, talking about these physical symptoms and how things will manifest that way? If you do.
Yeah, I would just like to say that when I first I knew I had a problem, and I knew and I understood grief. I just didn't know a way out of it
Mm.
until I met Terry, and she we were at a meeting, and she just mentioned grief recovery, and the minute she said that, it was like, the nickel went down into the slot, and I knew that's what I what I needed. I didn't know about the process, and we went through the process. But and the great thing about going through the process is it brings up things that you didn't know were in there, memories that you didn't know were there. And yeah, it can be an emotional thing, but at the very end, I literally felt lighter, and I can't explain it, but I even stood up and jumped up and down, and I literally felt lighter. This huge weight was taken off me, and since then, I've done, I think, 6 or 7 grief recoveries,
Wow.
and it's just taking the garbage out, just taking the garbage out, and literally being set free and being the person God intended me to be.
Mm.
So bravo. This is great what you two have put together.
Mm.
Thank
Thank you.
you.
Oh, thanks, Jerry. Appreciate that.
Thank you so much, Jerry.
Um,
That is awesome. Yes. Very awesome.
I would like to also say something too. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yes, we can hear you.
Oh, okay. I wasn't sure how the audio was working. That I am excited how you are taking some of the current information that science and health have learned about, um, as far as how our body uh, physically holds on to so many of our emotions if there's no place for it to go. And just all the current information that's come out these last few years, whether it's the gut brain axis or how our body is connected in so many exciting ways that we had no idea about, which helps explain even better the unprocessed grief and how it resides and has to find a place to reside somewhere in our bodies. And just additional information on how grief recovery assists in that process of releasing all the feelings and everything associated with the traumas that so many of us go through.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, so true, Terry. It is. It's so true. I'm always amazed, when John wrote this, it was over 40 years ago. And I
mhm,
think, man, this guy was so ahead of his time. And it's kind of like this simple program, right? It's not
mhm,
easy, but it's simple. Like it's the way that it's laid out and all the things that now it's almost like, and it is science backed. Like we know
mhm,
that, and it is. But to see now there's so much coming out, like you were talking about, like Gabor Mate, who is amazing. If you ever get the opportunity to listen to him, I could listen to him talk forever
Oh
Yeah.
yeah.
with his accent, and I love him. But he's so wise, and he's been through, and it's just I love that I get to hear these things and go, oh my gosh, grief recovery. That's what that does when you get to heal those foundational traumas. And that's when you shift, because when you, all these other things that we're talking about, whether they're physical symptoms, whether they're addictions, these are all symptoms of the deeper issue. And even like I didn't share this, and I've shared this on different webinars because we like to focus on a theme when we do these webinars.
Uh-huh.
We did focus on addiction before, but when I went through AA, I got sober at 26, and it was amazing to see my process of getting sober. And really, I believe with my whole heart that almost all addiction is unresolved grief. And because again, that is a symptom. And when you're
Mhm.
dealing with the root and the foundation, you're free to make a different choice. And you are not held captive, because that is a survival mode. That is a complete survival mode. And it makes such sense, and it opens up so much clarity. So, yes, I love that too, Terry, how things that are out there now, I listen. That's why we were like, we need to start doing webinars because we need to start helping people to understand what this actually does. Because a lot of times people will think, well, I haven't really gone through a lot of loss. When I came, I was like, I don't need that. I haven't really gone through a lot of loss. I haven't had a lot of death in my family. I've been very blessed with that. And then it was like going through it, I really realized, wow, like we were talking about, unresolved grief is conflicting feelings caused by the end of a familiar pattern of behavior. That's a lot. There's a lot of
Mhm.
things we experience that aren't even necessarily trauma, they're just change of season of life. When you become a mom, when your child goes off to college, when you're, probably even when your child gets married, that's another level of, and all these things that we're processing that transition. So, yeah, it's just so amazing. But that's our goal in bringing these webinars, is to bring the awareness of how these tools can help in so many ways.
Oh, that's great. I know I've learned a little bit more lately about um, adverse childhood experiences.
Mhm.
And I don't know in the past whether you looked at those necessarily as traumas, but so many of them are. And most of us have some
Yeah.
of those experiences in growing up, and we hold on to the tools that we have or how to deal with them,
Yeah.
and to actually go through grief recovery and learn, gosh, I didn't even realize, you hold on to some of these things in your body, or techniques or ways to deal with pain and suffering and all that, and to actually experience
Mhm.
recovery, that you don't
Yeah,
have to live like that anymore,
yeah,
um, is is amazing. Yeah. So
yeah.
thank you so much for what you guys are doing, and
Yeah.
the informative webinar.
Well,
Appreciate it.
Yeah, absolutely. And we do a webinar once a month. We usually
Oh,
do it
okay.
on the third week. And this month had 5 Mondays, I think, and there was a holiday, or there was something that made us
yeah, it's kind of a weird.
yeah, there was
Okay.
so we didn't do it on the third this time, but it's usually on the third. But we do it once a month, and you'll get an email. If you're here, then we'll send you out an email whenever we do a webinar to let you know. And if that
Okay.
sounds interesting, you can join us.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank
So thank
you.
you. Yeah. And this was all recorded. So if you jumped on late, you'll be able to hear the whole thing. Um, yeah. Does anybody have anything else that they want to question? Gamgee, Gail.
I guess, for me, I think it was, I realized going through grief recovery several times that the main thing that helped me so much was, and I didn't even realize, was childhood traumas. And there were several of them that really helped change my whole perspective on myself. And but the one thing that I wanted to mention too was what the wording that Dan said about reclaiming wholeness.
Mm.
That was like, that just kind of puts it all in a nutshell of really what this program is about for me. And I think it's so important, and it's so revealing to realize where you've been and where you're going and where you come out to from this program. So that's what I wanted to say. I think you guys are doing a great job.
Mm,
Thank
you.
you.
Yeah.
And I'd like to just clarify something. When I say that I've been through grief recovery 6, 7 times, it wasn't for the same thing.
Hmm.
I've done my divorce, death of my parents, a bunch of different things, but one time usually does it.
No, and I love that. That's such a good point, Jerry. There's the way that it works is that you go through the process the first time, and that's 8 weeks, and you get tools, and you have an incredible transformation in that process. Then, doing alumni work, you can take the tools and you can process through as many relationships or situations like you were talking about, Jerry, whether it's the loss of a parent or a divorce, something specific. I've helped women work through their careers. They're in a state maybe of their life where they're embarking in something and they're finding themselves in this whole thing where they were like, I never thought I'd be here, or how can I move forward with confidence? And by getting complete with these things, it's amazing the way you can use these tools. So I love that, Jerry, for that clarification. That's true. It's not like it didn't work the first time. And so that's why you have to do it again and again. It's more deeper work. And so it is. It's incredible because we know that grief and trauma will cause fragmentation. It causes things to fragment in our minds and in our bodies like that. And so I always feel like the more grief recovery you do, the more wholeness you experience. It's like putting those pieces back. And it really, truly works that way. That's
Yeah.
how it's worked in my life for sure. For sure. Because I've probably 11 or 12 alumni over the years. I've been doing this since '03, so it's been a while. So working through different relationships, different losses, and different, you know, different things that come up.
Yeah.
Yeah, when we moved from California to Texas, it was a big move. It was really hard. And someone that I'm really close with that also teaches grief recovery said, "Why don't you graph like your life in California?" And I was like, "Wow, that's brilliant." So we did. And it was totally it made all the difference of me being able to get complete with my life there and really be able to fully embrace the move here,
Yeah.
which was incredible. Maria, did you have your hand up? Hi, Olivia.
The mother. Um, I just wanted to say the statement how our body, what our heart can't hold, and that to and I've been to different counselors. I've done all different types of the self-help, the I don't know, meeting with people. A lot of the counselors, sometimes when you find out their personal lives or who they are,
Shoot, it's breaking up.
Yeah. Froze.
you
Yeah.
think, oh my gosh, I just want to say how much I really appreciate you and Dan and just your trustworthiness and your transparency. And I know who you are. and how I can come with anything and never feel judged, always feel safe, no matter what I'm grieving or how that's attached itself to me. And so I just want to say that from someone who's been through many different roads of trying to heal, that grief recovery, I think, is just amazing. And you guys are amazing. So I just wanted to share that.
Mm. Thank you, Maria. Thank you so much. That's sweet. Awesome. Thank you. Yes. Yeah. Well, it's great to see. What was that, Dan?
I'm just asking, I want to make sure we have any other questions that we can answer.
Yeah.
Because it's a little weird. Like I think it's starting to become a little bit more well understood in mainstream science, the connection between emotions and the body. And obviously, not every single physical ailment has a bunch of emotion attached to it. Um, sometimes illness is just illness, but oftentimes there are emotional components to it that can enable us to show up very differently when we process it. And so um, I kind of enjoy these because honestly, when I started doing this, it's like people thought death, divorce, and there's nothing else. And then you actually find out, wow, there's a lot. And there's more than 40 kinds of losses that we can experience in a lifetime. And then you go, oh, wow, this is a little bit broader and deeper than I thought. And I just, so it's nice to have actually a way to process it, so that it doesn't have to stay the same. So anyways, I love doing this, and it's awesome.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, and I think that it's important to note, like we were saying, that it's not that we're trying to like surpass, or what's the word, usurp medical advice or care, but we have seen that if you're not dealing with this element, whether it's in addiction recovery or in healing these things, then there's a missing part. There's something that could be really making things move. And so we are excited to bring this to you guys and share the value and the incredible program of grief recovery.
Yeah.
So we will bring it to a close unless there's any other questions. It's so great to see new faces and people that we have worked with in the past. Thank you all for being here. So,
Yeah,
so
thank you guys.
we value your time. And yeah, and we will be back next month if you have any questions, and if you want to just talk more and see if what we do can help you where you are, please reach out. We
Yeah,
would
because
love.
sometimes you might have a question that you don't necessarily feel comfortable asking in front of a group. So that's fine. Just, yeah, settle a consultation with us and we'll be happy to answer any questions that you have.
Yeah. So we hope you guys have a wonderful evening. Thank you for being here, and you'll hear from us. Check your email. Oh, and by the way, check your spam because my email provider has been sending it to spam lately. We're working on that, but check your spam in case you don't see it, but you'll get an email from me definitely by tomorrow. So
Yeah.
take care, you guys. Have a beautiful night.
Bye, y'all.